Welcome back, everybody. My name is All Fun and Games, and I stream every day on Twitch TV, and I also make fun videos here on YouTube. Today, we are going to be talking about the potential of a Don't Starve Together DLC. Now, there has been lots of rumors going around, and there's just been a lot of things flying around that I've kind of started to look into a little bit. And of course, you know that people can predict stuff, and of course we have, and some things have been correct, and some things I'm still waiting on. Cough, cough, DST Dungeons. But let's talk about the Don't Starve Together roadmap, just a smidge, and why this could be leading us to some big thing when it comes to Don't Starve Together. Believe it or not, with the Don't Starve Together roadmap, it turns out that for the Don't Starve Together, let me just bring it up real quick, 2023 roadmap, because I'm going to showcase it real quick because we all want to see it, and we know that everyone's curious on what exactly they're referring to. Let's go ahead and put this on top. There we go. Okay. In the Don't Starve Together 2023 roadmap, 3 content updates, 2 core game enhancement updates, all the usual events done, a secret bite-size crossover done, a Don't Starve Together 10-year celebration done, 2 content updates have already been done, leaving 1 left. If you don't really know what that is, it means that this is probably the big finale. 2 core game enhancement updates. I'm assuming it's referring to the skill trees or skill set or whatever, and then maybe something, I don't really know what else they added. But regardless, then it says, additionally, this roadmap does not cover a full year because the last roadmap ran into 2023. So this is interesting because we're not super, like, what are we in? We're in September. So we still have quite a few months left. Now, there's a chance that we could very well see what looks to be another few characters getting their skill trees, which, of course, in my previous video, I commented on how I believe it's probably going to be, you know, the next characters that obviously need them, like Winona, maybe Weber, and maybe like Willow or something. But it's entirely possible that we actually get the rest of the characters. Now, not necessarily all the time or all at the same time, but quite a few more than we originally did. Now, keep in mind that we got 3 characters to start in the beta, and then, of course, when that happens, you know, there's a lot of content behind that because you have to take into consideration all the new things that they give you and blah, 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 blah. So I do think we might end up seeing another 3 characters, maybe 4. It's entirely possible we could like see 3 plus 1. But anyways, let's talk about the DLC and why I think it's happening. Don't Starve Together has been very, very well put together recently, especially with all the amount of updates we've been getting. Honestly, when it comes to games, Don't Starve Together, or I should say Clay, really does an amazing job at producing lots of updates. I used to sit there and think, wow, like, you know, like I would really like to see something big come out. We don't understand that one small change in Don't Starve Together really affects the rest of the game. For example, if they take it so Weber can now, you know, produce fireballs in his hand, they now have to have a actual way of Weber talking about that through text, because we all know lore is a thing, and that makes it so they have to now come up with a thing where he says like, wow, fire's a lot hotter than I expected, and then another character reacts to the fire and blah 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 blah. Because of the text in the game, that's really the big thing, is like they have to go through and add descriptions and all that other stuff. I feel like at some point Clay probably looked and said, we really should not have done that. I mean, I think that's why games like Minecraft and Terraria are so interesting, because like there is text in the game, but it's not text heavy. So anyways, I don't know how much like time and effort goes into that, but it's got to be a lot of work. But now, we know the crossover that came over was a lot smaller than Terraria. Everyone's comments were like, wow, I can't believe that Cult of the Lamb has the big piece of the pie. And literally, we're sitting over here with just, what, like a fire pit or something? And honestly, like, sure, like it wasn't like the best thing. And of course, we expected the outlet to be like the thing that you end up getting. But the thing is that I think Clay's priorities are not on the crossover. It might have happened where they got the idea and like maybe Cult of the Lamb came to them and said, hey, let's do something. And Clay was like, sure, let's go ahead and make it happen. And then they realized, oh shit, we got like a big update happening. So let's just not like pump all of our time and energy into it, which was confirmed that it was all done in their own time, just to kind of make a, you know, make both companies happy and blah, 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 blah. Regardless, I think it was a big bonus for Clay anyways, because literally Weber is now pushed into Cult of the Lamb, which gives more exposure to DST as a game, or Don't Starve in a game, I should say anyways. So whatever. Okay, let's stop filling this video with like random stuff. Not that it's junk, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, why do I think it's a DLC is coming to Don't Starve Together? Because I think that in this case, Clay has really been pushing us towards the edge of what potentially could eventually be a huge shift in Don't Starve Together. Yes, I'm referring to the rifts. Sorry, I'm referring to the rifts and all that other stuff, and of course the shadows, which are eventually going to lead us somewhere. Now, I don't know if that rift will eventually lead us to where you need a DLC in order to continue, because that could be an easy way for them to do that. Now, keep in mind, if you are playing with somebody who has a DLC, we've seen in the past where companies have made it so if I'm hosting the server and I have the DLC, when you join my server, you're able to have all the unlocked content. That would be something that would have to be had. I know DLCs get tricky, and they get tricky because of that specifically, but at the same time, too, you have to understand DLCs are great for companies because it makes them money for big types of updates that they produce for the game. At the same time, Clay could get a little bit of a bad rep for adding a DLC, so there's some pros and cons. That's why in the past we've kind of looked at it and said, I don't think a DLC is ever going to come. But in the case that they did release one, I would totally see it being understandable, especially if it was something like $5. It could really add a huge shift into DST to make it like pumped up a lot, because every time you see DLC or the word DLC, you realize that it's a lot of content being added into the game. Now, yes, they could just give us the content for free, sure, whatever, and then charge for skins or whatever else. But I would like to see Clay actually starting to do some sort of DLC, especially once a year or something like that. And I know you're probably sitting there screaming at your computer right now, punching your keyboard, and maybe even giving me the middle finger. But honestly, I think DLCs are actually awesome. The reason why I'm saying this, let me switch over to my actual camera so you can see my face while you can tell how serious I am. The reason why I say this is because DLCs actually make the game feel like it's getting a lot of content. Now, not to say that Don't Starve Together is not getting content right now, but I think that if we actually said something like DLC and it showcased like whatever, like a big boat or something and whatever they ended up choosing, which I think there's a possibility that we could see this. One of two things are happening. We're either going to get a DLC, or we're just going to get a shit ton of content that we were not expecting, which I think is going to, one of those, like either it's going to be a DLC or it's not going to be a DLC, but it's still going to be a lot of content. So there's a lot of shit happening for sure. Now, is this going to happen tomorrow or in the next beta? No, I think it's probably about a month or two out. I would even say it could be very well close to Christmas time, if not Christmas time. Now, we know that Clay takes a huge break near Christmas, so please let's hope that it happens in 2023. I would love to see this actually be a thing where we get it before the end of the year and then it trickles into 2024. And it is entirely possible this could be the end of Don't Starve Together as well. This could be the big finale, the big last bit of content, and then 2024, because I've seen different quotes and I've quoted in different videos where it says, stay tuned for the end of like 2023 or something like that. Or it was something like the updates will run until 2023, which tells me that there's a few possibilities. One, it could be a big update. Two, it could be a big update, but it's a DLC. That could also happen. And then they could say, look, the game is finished. It's complete. We've compiled everything. It's ready to go. Stay tuned for Don't Starve Together 2. And which could like blow up the entire universe because everyone would freak out. Now, of course, I don't think that would happen, but you got to remember, Don't Starve Together is an older game. It's not new-ish, So having another variation of the game getting released is not a bad thing because it means that newer architecture, newer like game design, probably easier coding. I don't really know. It probably actually might not be a possibility. I don't know. I've said it in the past that Don't Starve Together 2 would be pretty awesome. But I do think it's a big update happening. DLC or not DLC, it's still a lot of content that's about to happen. The reason why I think this is because things like the small crossover, things like the amount of skill sets that we're getting, they're not going to just release all these skill trees and skill sets and go, here you go play the game like you normally played. No, there's going to be a lot of content added, and I think it could very well be what I've been thinking is that it's leading into kind of like a Hamlet-ish variation where you do have, not necessarily dungeons, but you have a variation of that like you're going to need to choose. Are you going to do shadows? Or are you not going to do shadows? Because when you continue down this path, you're going to encounter the enemies. As of right now, really like what you run into a rift every now and then and you got to fight them. Like going into an affinity and being like, I take less damage from a shadow creature. Who the hell really cares? Because it's not really affecting you that much right now anyways. And even if you like might encounter like a bright shade or something, like I don't really think that matters much anyways right now. So in reality, I think that they're going down a path that's going to lead us to probably some crazy stuff. I hope it's not necessarily just jam-packed with a million other bosses. The game really needs like an influx of, in my opinion, just like a lot of content, which we are most likely going to get. It could very well be another story arc thing where we see like a bunch of things added, which we know happened in Reign of Giants. If they did bring us like a Reign of Giants, so to speak, that would be pretty insane because that means we're going to get a bunch of content all at the same time. You know, I wasn't really around when Reign. I think I like just got DSD when Reign of Giants came out, but regardless, I think it could be a pretty awesome little thing. So that's what I think is happening. I don't know when it's going to happen. I have a feeling from what I'm reading on the forums and all that stuff. Like, I like to stay away from the forums, so sometimes I get sucked into it and I start reading some comments that actually make a lot of sense. And honestly, I think it's possible. I think we could really see a jam-packed amount of content that could very well be labeled as a DLC. Nobody would really complain. The only problem is that I don't think it would really work for people joining servers, and it might just cause a lot of rift between the community, which I don't think Clay wants to do. So, how do they make money? Obviously, character skins and all that stuff. But if Clay says, look, we're not really making a lot of money from the character skins right now, we might have to produce a DLC, especially with all the work that we're putting into it. Well, guess what? You know, I would totally understand that. So, Clay, do whatever the hell you want to do, but I'm really expecting a lot of content from you, and I think we're accurate. I think we got it down pat. So let me know down in the comments what you think is going down, but I feel like some stuff is brewing. It makes no sense that the crossover was as tiny as it was without Clay really putting a lot of time and effort into actually making sure that the next set of content that they're releasing behind the scenes is going to be a pretty beefy one. So I don't know what it's going to be, but I do hope that it's chunky, and I hope that it's a lot of a big mess. So we have a lot of Play-Doh to play around with and mess around with, because in reality, it'd be really cool to see that. Now, if it gets labeled as a DLC, like, you know, I am okay with that. That doesn't mean everybody else is okay with that. So comment down below. Are you going to get mad if it's a DLC? Do you think it's going to be a lot of content? And do you think it's a possibility that Don't Starve Together 2 is coming out? Let me know down in the comments, because I think it's interesting and I think it's a cool conversation to have. And I'd like to have a conversation with a few of you in the comments about it. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.